Welcome to subramani.com. Please like our videos. Please press the bell icon so that you can keep coming back for more. And please do subscribe. Nice to see a lot of subscribers on my YouTube channel also. You're all there on Twitter, you're there on my blog. Please come as a subscriber here too. What are the things that an advisor should do during this time of COVID? So first of all, let me tell you, the advantage for an advisor is a lot of advisors are likely to go out of business as times get tougher. Many SIPs will stop, a lot of clients will fall by the wayside, many clients will withdraw, which means your AUM will shrink. All these things will happen, but this is a magnificent time to be building a relationship with clients. Sounds funny? Well, it's not. Historically, tough times means the older, when I mean older, I mean people who have been in business longer benefit, and people who have been in business for a shorter time actually lose business. So if you have been here longer, you know what all to do during a recession. You did it in 92, you did it in 2008. Well, if you didn't know it, you can learn. So what are the things to do? One, asset allocation. Extremely difficult to do, because client will now say market has fallen, I want to withdraw money, he will panic, you have to keep him in control. It is not very easy to keep him in control, because the whole world is saying last 10 years returns have been wiped out, last 7 years returns have been wiped out. May or may not be true, but keeping the client calm in this time and making him stick to his asset allocation is not going to be very easy. Let me tell you about a friend. He has got a lot of stock options in a pharma company, and he has exercised it, and his net worth has increased in these last 30 days, right? I mean, I'm not naming the company, but yes, of course, his net worth has increased. So what do? I ask him to sell the shares. Is it easy to sell shares? No, because market, in a rising market for his share, he doesn't feel like selling. But his old discipline of selling an X amount of shares every month and doing an SIP continues. So that he didn't want to change, which is very good, but he didn't want to sell any big quantity of shares, which is fine by me, because his net worth is good, and his ESOP is about 60% of his net worth. I would hate it going to 80%, but yeah, he's pursuing on that. The question is, will you be able to ask him to sell at higher prices on a regular basis? That's your challenge, because people working in companies don't like to do asset allocation very easily. Try telling a guy in HDFC Bank or Hindustan Lever or Biocon or anybody to sell off some of their shares. They'll say, no, now this is going to happen, it's a great company. So, right, so getting him to do asset allocation, getting her to do asset allocation is very difficult. And it is very difficult, especially in case of women clients, because their husbands also interfere. When you tell a guy to do something, it's okay, but he doesn't have to ask his wife. But when you tell a woman to do something, and the husband will also interfere. So maneuvering yourself amongst all this is not going to be easy. So first, get the asset allocation. Second, conserving cash is very useful during bad times. So when a client has got cash, conserve it, because he might be excited, he might want to invest more. Now this is exactly reverse of the guy who wanted to withdraw everything. Now new client might panic and withdraw everything, and the older client, which means he's got 5-6 years experience, he will now act like, market has come down, should I be investing? Hello, maybe it's a time to do nothing, right? So if you do not know what to do nothing. You don't have to jump in, or you put a toe in. You say, okay, you got a net worth of 5 crores, you can put 50,000, you can put 1 lakh, you'll have to put 5 lakhs. You choose whatever number. If a client has got a net worth of 50 lakhs, I don't think 5 lakhs is a small amount. If a client has got 5 crores, I don't think 10 lakhs is a big amount, or 20 lakhs is a big amount, right? So you choose, depending on that, test the waters, go into it slowly. The problems are not yet over. The problems might get worse before it gets better. We do not know how many people are going to die. We do not know when the solution to the virus will be found, when the vaccine will be found. We don't know right now. We are almost playing blind. So conserving cash is very useful. Third, look at clients' prospects in going ahead. If he's a pilot, if he's working in the telecom industry, if he's working in the hotel industry, career paths could be very different going forward. Telecom is going to be booming as long as your services like Zoom and Skype are in demand, right? But there could be new players, there could be new manufacturers, there could be new software. No, none of us know how our life is going to pan out. In fact, I'm sure I'm going to get very little work going forward, traveling. I may be doing more work online, but offline work is likely to disappear at least for a couple of months. Maybe in July it will pick up, maybe in August it will pick up, maybe airfares will go up first and then come down. We have no clue. So basically, with all this uncertainty, don't be in a hurry to allocate the cash, keep the cash. Third, control the behavioral biases of your customer. Overconfidence bias, survivorship bias are not easy to control. Overconfidence bias, let me explain. This is about two friends in more or less similar situation. So one person wanted to short sell Tata Power. Tata Power, he had short sold at 45, 50 and made a lot of money on the way down to 30. So at 30, he again wanted to short sell Tata Power, and I said, short selling Tata Power seems to be a bad idea, because if 30 rupees is what is the maximum you can earn at 30, right? That's the best you could have done. It would have gone to zero, technically. I said at 30 rupees, Tata Power, it looks easier to make 30 rupees buying rather than 30 rupees selling. So converted a selling guy into a buying guy. Look, I don't do any of these things commercially, so it is easy for people to call me up and take this kind of advice. It is very irresponsible, free, wrong advice, anything, but yeah, controlling friends and clients and relatives from making such mistakes is very useful. Take another person who at 270 had the luck to buy, Biocon. Good. So he asked me how much to put. I said, I know him very well. I know his net worth. And I said, yeah, this is the amount which you can put. You identified a good company, good price. So he bought it at 270. Now at 3, the share price is at 355. Again a call. I want to put more money into Biocon. Do you think it's a good idea? I said, no. Because at his net worth, he could have put 1 million rupees. Can you put 1 more million rupees? No. Because this is called overconfidence bias. I bought the share, the price went up, so I will buy more, it will go up further. No way. This is overconfidence. Or, survivorship bias. So many pharma companies don't even survive. So this is survived. You put money, you made money. Now maybe it's the time to sell. I'm not talking about market timing. But you made money, right? So you made 50%, you made 85 bucks on 270 rupees. That is 33% in 15-20 days. That's not a bad amount of money, right? Your GSEC is at 7% or under 7%, 6.06, right? When GSEC is so low and you're making so much of trading profits, maybe it's time to book profits, right? Overconfidence bias. Controlling clients' behavioral mistakes is a very important job for the advisor. Another very important job for the advisor is to tell him the more tax efficient ways of investing. So if you can do his asset allocation, if you do his conservation of cash, if you make sure that his behavioral mistakes are taken care of, and if you can do something about the direct taxes that he pays, you got the ABCD right? So asset allocation, behavioral, conserving cash, direct taxes, right? These four. He needs to understand all the value that you're adding. You need not tell him in that many words, but no kind of robo-advisory can do all this kind of a combination, because each one is delivered on an individual basis. Asset allocation differs from individual to individual. I know husbands who have a completely different asset allocation from their wives, not because of what they can afford, but because of their original financial backgrounds. They were very different, right? So trying to do all this robo-advisory is not very easy. Robo-advisory also charge. So your client will know why you're charging a little more than robo-advisory. Good enough. Do these 5 things and life will be good. Thank you.